Welcome everyone, this is Genesis. Today we're bringing you a computer build named the Exterminator by the amazing guys over at the PC Master Race Reddit. So it's a quality mid-range computer at the sub $600 range. With this computer we're able to play most games at 1080p from high to ultra settings, maybe even at 1440 if you turn some of the settings down. In this video I'll also go over some augmentations you can do to the system, such as adding an SSD, adding a bare graphics card, or making the build cheaper by using an i3 CPU. So let's get started with the first component on the list, shall we? So the first component is an Intel Core i5-6400 quad core. It comes in at $179.99 over at superbiz.com. Now there's a really great budget CPU for anyone that wants to do just strictly gaming and possibly some other forms of streaming and recording and doing YouTube videos. So the next component I will go over is the MSI H110M Eco Micro ATX 1151 motherboard. Now this is a budget motherboard and it comes in at $62.98 over at newegg.com. Due to this being an 1151 motherboard, it can provide great upgradability to i7 processors from the Skylake family. Now when it comes to RAM, you just want to get 8GB of DDR4. It doesn't matter which brand you take, just get it as cheap as possible, preferably under $30 if you can find it. What I have picked for the build is 8GB of Kingston memories, DDR4 single sticks are going to be running at a single channel, but it's at 2133 MHz, and that comes in at $26.99 over at superbiz.com. When purchasing a hard drive for this build, there's a lot of different drives you can buy, but for this build I went with a Seagate Barracuda 1TB 3.5-inch 7200 RPM hard drive. Now you can get any hard drive really, as long as it's like under the $50 range. This hard drive that I went with is $44.99. I mean, it's a hard drive that gets things done. It's not the fastest thing ever. I'll talk about getting an SSD on the end of the video. Now the case, this is a lot of just personal preference, but for the build I have chosen a Corsair 200R ATX mid-tower case. Now this case is a case made by Corsair, obviously it's a very reputable brand, and I had this case myself a few years ago. The build quality is great. The cable management could be a bit better, but you're paying $50 for a case, so don't expect that much. And of course this case also provides lots of upgradability, since it has a lot of graphics card space, has a space for a tall heatsink and lots of motherboard sizes. Now for the graphics card I have chosen an MSI Radeon R9 380, the 2GB variant. It comes in at $163.98 over at newegg.com. Now this is a great graphics card, great price per FPS in most games, better than the Nvidia counterpart, which I believe is the GTX 960. AMD can really beat out Nvidia at this price point, therefore I strongly recommend this card. And now of course it's time for the power supply of the system. Now, I have chosen a Seasonic G550 watt power supply, gold certified 80+. It's semi-modular, therefore you can unplug the cables you don't need, but it still has the CPU power and the 24-pin ATX connector. Now it's a power supply and it comes in at $68.99. However, you can cut some corners possibly, and instead of getting this power supply you can get a Corsair CX series, which has a bad reputation for, well, basically exploding in people's systems. But in my system I have a CX750M and it's been going fine for the last 3 years. So if you don't want to risk it, don't get one, but mine's fine, so personal preference. So now that's the whole parts list complete. Now this adds up to just more or less, probably a bit more than $600. So now we can style the augmentations. First augmentation we can do is use an i3 CPU instead of the i5. Now the i3 we're going to use is an i3 6100 CPU. It's a dual core, but it will make the whole build $70 cheaper. If you want more horsepower, you definitely want a better graphics card, therefore recommending an AMD R9 390, which makes the whole system around $120 more expensive, but it gives you a massive performance gain in games, therefore I strongly recommend the card. And now the final system upgrade is an SSD. Now you want to get a 250GB SSD minimally, because that's where you have enough space to kind of store stuff, and 120 gigs isn't really that much. So you can probably get 250GB SSD. I'm recommending a SanDisk Ultra 2 240 gigs. They come around like $75 on various websites. For example, Amazon has it $74.99. And that is it for the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed the build. Let me know how successful you was building a computer, or any personal changes you might make to it yourself. So make sure you comment down below with the things I just mentioned, and hope you have a great day. Goodbye.